Alright, so today I want to share an event with you that we had on the 12th of July. We had a meetup with 4 people in total, including me. So, to give you a bit of context on what we did, we had 2 guys from Germany and they went from Aachen to Maastricht. And we had me and my friend, we went all the way with the train to there. So me and my friend, we went from the train station to the inner city library, and the other guys, one of them went with the bicycle and the other went with the bus. Okay, so welcome to this meetup. This is the introduction to the Git CLI. So I'm not gonna go over the advanced stuff, but you will probably learn it along the way when you use it. What is Git first? I want to make sure you're all on the same level of knowledge. So it's a version control system. So whenever you have a piece of code and you want to add a function to it in a certain file, you can say like, I want to create a new version for my project that has this function. So when later you decide I don't want this function anymore, you can just remove the commit from the versioning system, and then you will have like your code with that function removed. But you can always look back into the history and find that function again if you need it. It's also a way to back up your code so you don't lose it on a server, and also a way to collaborate, because if I work with another developer, he can pull my latest version of the code, and we can do code reviews with Git, and we can make sure we work together without getting conflicts in the code. For instance, if you change something on line 77 and I also make a change on that, if you use something like, I don't know, Dropbox, it will create conflicts that you have to solve, and it's like a pain in the ass. So that's why you should use Git. And you can also use multiple servers to push the code to, but I don't think anyone uses that. Everyone just uses one server. Where can you host projects? So there are a couple of different places to host your code. For Amazon Web Services, you have Code Commit. That's useful when you use the Amazon tool stack for building your projects and releasing a website or another application. You can also use GitHub. It's used a lot for open source projects where people collaborate on like open source projects. Also Bitbucket. It's usually used with other Atlassian products like Jira or Confluence. Confluence is like a wiki for a project. So you can like write documents and other stuff, researches. GitLab, that's like a hosting to use Git with a lot of other features like CI/CD. So you can automatically integrate your code on your server. And it also has like a lot of other features like documentation. Just like Atlassian has a lot of products, they also have like planning boards and stuff like that built in. And GitHub these days has those features, but it doesn't have them all for free. And GitLab has like a free plan you can use. So I use GitLab like quite a lot. And there are also like a lot of other alternatives you can look up if you need those. Then we have the programs, how to use Git. That's actually like the main topic of this meetup. Pretty much you have GUI applications, like with a graphical user interface where you have all these buttons to do certain actions. And then you also have the CLI, which is just like typing in the commands instead of pressing those buttons. There's a couple of GUI applications available, like SourceTree or GitHub Desktop, Git Kraken. And in pretty much every code editor you have a plugin with a GUI version. For example, IntelliJ also has a terminal window built in, and VS Code also has like a terminal window, so you can also use every CLI available. Then we have the CLI. Mainly used is the Git Bash for Windows, but for Linux, I also have Linux and Mac. You have a terminal built in you can use for Git. This is an example of my Git installation. I tried like get-v and then it didn't work because that command isn't available, and then I saw like, oh, I have to use -- version to check out the Git version. So that's like how you can use Git on Linux, and for Windows there's Git Bash. Why should you use the CLI over the GUI? Well, like you have a lot of features in the GUIs, but you don't have all of them. Like I think the only advantage of the GUI is that you can easily view the changes when you select a commit in the commit tree. But when you want to easily switch to a new branch or to a remote, you have to like open tabs and stuff like that. And with Git, you can just, with the CLI, you can just type a command like git remotes, and then it lists all the remotes like instantly, like a split second. So it's like pretty fast. And I also have a video for that, like a GIF that I made to kind of demonstrate what it looks like. Let's see how it works. Yeah. It is like half speed because of the GIF, so the typing is really slow. But if I do git status, you can see like I added a new file and modified these files inside the project, and I can like pretty easily see I'm on this feature branch right now. And if I want to list all of the branches, I can just type that command and it's just listed in there. Then you have to scroll up because it's like a couple of them. And if I want to switch to another branch, I can just type git checkout development, and I just press D and then tab, and then I switch to it. Then you see here like switch to branch development, and it gives some information. So it's like once you get used to it, it's pretty concise. So let's get back to here. Also some other reasons, like it can save you a lot of time, especially at my internship, for example. We had like 80 branches after a couple of years, and the policy was to keep every branch available, so you couldn't delete them. I don't know why I shouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But like, and the PCs weren't that fast, so it was like every time I wanted to switch to a new branch and I didn't have like a source tree open, I would have to wait for 2 minutes just to switch to a new branch if I didn't know the Git CLI, but because then it would just be starting up the terminal, and I would type git checkout, and then if I knew the branch name out of my head, I would just type it and it would be way faster, like a matter of seconds. And I think right now with my study projects it saves me about 10 to 15 minutes a day, which is like, if you take 4 to 6 hours of programming time, like productive time, 15 minutes is quite a lot. It's like a huge percentage, like 10% or something. Also, it's like cool and fun to use because like, who knows it? I already put it right here. Like 0.3% of developers use it because most of the developers are lazy and they don't want to learn like the toolset. Yeah, you can show off your skills to your colleagues, your peers, like study mates, anyone around you. And sometimes you have to do something advanced. And for example, with source tree, you cannot do everything. Like if you need to do a merge and you need to make some changes really fast, sometimes it's like way easier to use a command than to find a certain setting inside your program that you use. And then you won't be held back Googling like how to do this and then actually typing in a command. But if you need it and it's like the first time you see the whole CLI, it will be like, I'm not gonna do this, I'm scared to break something. And if you already use it for the simple stuff, it's easier to get into the advanced stuff. So that's like one of the reasons to use it. Also, it's like really fast to type commands instead of clicking, especially if you use a touchpad and you have to press really small arrow buttons. And yeah, like I said, the GUI doesn't have all the commands available. Like a force push to the server, it won't work when you just press the push button. Then you just have to type a command. And there's like also no reason not to use it. The terminal is integrated in a lot of code editors. And like I said, you don't have to wait for the startup time from certain programs. Then something about specifically GitHub when using the CLI, because you will probably use GitHub at least once in your life as a developer. If you start a new project, you will meet this page because there's nothing in there to show. So you have the URL, and then it says like you can create a new repository on your local machine and push it to the command line. And they already have like a couple of commands listed for you, which you can just copy and paste, like git init, add readme, commit, first commit, and then add the remote and push it to the repository. Or you can, if you have a repository already, you can just add the remote and push it to the master branch. Another way to do it is with a GUI program, of course, but here you already have those commands listed, so it's like easier to actually use the CLI. Then we also have two different protocols to use for the communication with the server. It's either HTTPS or SSH, and SSH is also used to log into a Linux system. Then you would type like SSH root at the IP address of the server, and then you can like configure a server. And this protocol is better for transferring files. It's also safer to use, and in your GitHub account you have like keys you can configure, and you can just delete them when you like throw away your laptop or you buy a new one, and you can just delete the old one on the server, and then you are sure no one has access to your account anymore. With HTTPS, it's stored somewhere in a credential manager, and maybe it's like if you didn't wipe your system well enough, someone can just like look up your password maybe. And HTTPS cannot use with, at least when I still used it, it couldn't be used with two-factor authentication. Because then I would need an SMS code like to log into my account. But I couldn't clone a repository because the CLI with the HTTPS didn't know like how to deal with that protocol. Maybe they fixed it right now, but when I did that, it couldn't be used with two-factor authentication. So and it's also way faster, the transfer speeds. If you clone a repository with 30 megabytes, it's like a lot faster speed than with HTTPS. So I would use SSH, but it does require a little bit more setup time. So that would be like the easy part of HTTPS, because then you would just type in your GitHub username or password, or GitLab username password, etc., etc. But I am used to using the SSH keys, and I can help you guys set up the keys for this tutorial. Then we have a couple of commands. First we have the git clone. You already saw it like right here. Then you would type git clone and then the URL you want to use. And that's to make a local copy of your Git repository, and then you can use Git. And then we have some more useful commands. We have the git fetch command. It gets like the information of the current state on the server. So if you make a new branch or someone else makes a new branch, you can use git fetch to look for those new branches and new commits available, but it doesn't actually download anything yet. So that's only when you do a git pull. Git status, I already showed you some of that. It basically shows you every staged file, every unstaged file, every changed file, how many commits you have opposed to the server, like the master branch on the server. It can say like you're either 3 commits behind or you are ahead, and then you have to like do a push to actually make your changes available to everyone. That's basically get status. If you use the CLI, this is basically what you will use a lot, because it also shows you on which branch you currently are. So if you're working on like feature number 12 or something for a certain project, and you are on branch 14, you want to check like on which branch am I to actually work on the correct one. Then we have git add. This is when there's a new file and you want to make a commit, and that's basically staging the file. So if you have a couple of changed files, you can choose to either add all of them using the dot, or you can type the name of the file. Let's say index.html, and then it gets added to like the files that are ready to be committed, and then you can use the git commit command to actually make the commit. And then we also have the reset, basically unstages the files back to your working copy so you can change them. I don't use this one a lot, because usually if I have to make a change, I just make the change and add it again, and then they get merged together. But this one is actually useful, the hard reset. If you use --hard after reset, it basically removes all of your changes. It also undoes the changes to your files. So if you're like working on that function you're trying to build, and you're like, oh shit, I don't want all these lines of code, you can just say git reset --hard, and it goes back to where you started before you were working on the feature. Yeah, of course we have git commit to actually commit the file. And when you just type git commit, you get this like interface where you have to type a message, and you can do some other stuff with it. What I usually do is -m, and then between double quotes you can type the message, like saying like changed index.html, and then the commit is created with like the message changed index.html. Git push, if you made that commit, you just type git push and then the the remote. Usually the remote is called origin, and then the branch name. So for instance, the master branch, you just say git push remote, or no, not remote, git push origin master. Like after this command, you just say the origin name and then the branch name. Then we have the git pull. Basically, if there's a change on the server, you just type git pull. And you can also pull other branches by specifying which one you need. Let's say like origin task 12. Even if you're not on that branch, you can pull it in. So you can get the changes, work on your feature, and then switch to that branch, and it's already up to date. Then we have stash. Basically, if you are working on something and you work on the wrong branch, you can say git stash. All of your changes are gone into like a different spot on your Git repository, and then you can switch a branch and you can say git stash apply, and then all your changes are on the other branch, and then you can commit them there. That's like one of the most useful commands I know. Then you might be asking, like, are there more commands that you frequently use? I would say probably not. Maybe I've missed one or two, like creating branches and stuff like that. But like, there's a good documentation where you can find anything that you need to actually learn all of those commands, and then after a while they will just be like in your memory, and when you use it, like, you will just type them out like out of memory. Like, it's pretty easy to learn. And I have a link in the next slide. And something more about me, because that's the end of the presentation. Basically, I run two businesses. One personal business where people can contract me for an hourly rate, and I work on a startup where we built a platform for music producers. So that's basically how what I do in my free time. And I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Yes, Let's Learn Software Engineering. I make like software engineering videos. And I also have a Discord community where we connect with each other. We don't have a lot of people right now, and it's not really active, but like, if anyone has a question in that group, they can just ask it or put it on Stack Overflow and link it to that group. And then we also have a couple additional tools and resources. I shared my slides with you guys, so you can click the links. Basically, Git Flow is a helpful tool to make feature branches when you work with tasks. You can say like something like git flow start and then the task name, and then it will make like it will use like a convention for the branch names, like feature / task number 1 or something like that. It's a really useful tool that a lot of people use. We use it at our startup company. And then also, if you mess something up, there's this website called ohshitgit.com. And for example, this one is pretty useful. Oh shit, I committed and immediately realized I needed to change something. Then you don't want to make like another commit, because the message will be basically the same, and then you would have to type a message like fix this stuff for this task. But you can also like do this, like add them and then do a commit -- amend, which will like add those changes to the previous commit. It's like pretty easy, and stuff like this is you pretty much cannot do it with the GUIs, at least not that I know of. So that's like a really useful website in case you get lost. And like a list of all the commands. There's documentations from Git. You can pretty much find anything here. Like all of the different Git commands. Logs, stash, the one that I showed, checkout, like checking out the new branch. You can all find them over there. And also, if you want to go to more meetups, there's a special website for that. It's called meetup.com. I think it started in San Francisco, but it's like pretty much all over the world, like Amsterdam, Utrecht, there are a lot. Probably here in Maastricht as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you guys have any questions right now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, no. That's great. After going to the meetup, we decided to go for a fruitcake that Maastricht is famous for, and they're really, really nice. I highly recommend them. After that, we decided to try some challenges based on the common YouTube channel we knew. It's called Yes Theory, and if in case you don't know those guys, they basically do a lot of challenges with strangers or in public. To basically seek discomfort and get out of your comfort zone, so you get more confidence. Yep, right now.
I've ever seen.
Come on! Hold my beer. I need to. Fuck. You go after?
I'm really bad at push-ups. I'll do something else. Just next.
Hey, you have this.